Colorado Springs' #1 car show by default. This is Automotive ADHD.
All right, welcome into the bonus show. Matt West here, talking cars with you. If you just came off of the radio show, I talked about all sorts of amazing stuff. And if you're just tuning into the bonus now, go back and listen and or watch. Yes, it's on video, the podcast of the radio show. Talk all about internal combustion engines and the EV debate and why things are actually, I think internal combustion engines are winning out in the long run. I mean, I go in depth with this. We also talk a little bit about A86s. My blunder that almost blew up my A86 recently. And then we also talk about the Alibaba version of the A86. Yes, you can buy a complete shell from China now. It's just you have to buy them in bulk, and they're not cheap. So I talk about that as well as some of my thoughts with the use of reproduction body panels when it comes to automotive restoration. I think there is a time and a place for them. I don't think they are absolute sacrilege. I do think there's a time and a place. So, hey, go back and listen to the show for all of that. But we're talking about here on the bonus show, Kia. Oh, I know. I'm talking about a Kia. You just tuned out right there. No, but talking about Kia's new pickup truck. Yes, Kia sees the sales from the Toyota Tacoma. They see the Chevy Colorado doing well. And they want a piece of that. They want a piece of that action. And it's called the Tasman. Tasman? T-A-S-M-A-N. Tasman. Sorry, there's no L in there. I know, it's good. Hey, it's been a long week for me, wrenching on cars and almost blowing my cars up. So, Kia Tasman. There we go. I'll fix that. Hey, we don't edit this around here, but Kia has this truck is interesting. It looks a little unusual. It looks like a truck. Yes, I can see there's like a bed, and it's a four-door truck. But it's not officially released yet. But it's also not just a concept car or a rumor. Kia's been releasing images of it. They've been releasing videos of it even because they are trying to promote this truck. Kia's, if I'm correct, the first Kia truck, like kind of like a mid-sized truck that's ever been made. Now, don't quote me on every little detail. I don't know if Kia's maybe made like little micro trucks in Asia. I don't want to say this is the first truck they've ever made because I can't say for certain. But definitely a new entry in the mid-sized truck market. And I think I want to show you a couple things. I'm going to show you, for one, the video of it here. And if you're listening on audio, I'll kind of tell you what you're seeing or what you should be seeing. You can also go check out the show on video on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, all of those places where I guess people watch videos, so I'm told. But go ahead and check this out. It does give us some ideas. Let me hit a few buttons over here and get this working for you. There we go. All right. And then I think I got to hit one more button. There it is. Okay, so we can see this video here, and I'm not going to run any sound on it because I don't want to get hopelessly sued. But they are in the UAE testing this truck in the desert. And it's got an interesting wrap. I will say the wrap on this truck is very unusual. It's very psychedelic looking. I just paused it there. Very psychedelic. It's unusual for a manufactured camo. Usually it's like that zebra sort of look. I'll commend them on this. This is an interesting camo that they've done to kind of hide it a bit while it's a pre-production vehicle. And as we can see here, they got some guys testing tire pressures and all of this stuff, testing it out. They're wearing face masks. Makes me wonder what sort of other people wear face masks and like pickup trucks in the desert. Am I allowed to say that? I don't know. I just did, though. I can't unsay it. So, yeah, the Kia Tasman. All right, and they show it driving around in the desert a whole bunch, and they're ripping through the sand. They're not really telling us anything useful. We don't know anything about the drivetrain other than it appears to have four-wheel drive. And I will say four-wheel drive and not all-wheel drive. And here's why. We'll get to the point in the video here. I'll probably skip around a bit. I'll go frame by frame in a second. I'm just kind of letting it run and giving you some commentary as we take a look at it. But I have a good theory this is going to be a proper four-wheel drive truck. I think Kia is actually going all out and not just giving us something like the Hyundai, that pickup truck thing that they have, which I've actually met a few owners who really love those. And it's fine if you have if you need an SUV, but sometimes you want an SUV, but sometimes you need some more space. Sometimes you need to put things that are dirty in the back. That's, what that Hyundai, it's more of like a Santa Fe with a pickup bed. This, though, appears to be a proper truck. It appears to be a body on frame style construction. And here we go. I will now grab a couple of frames. I'm going to skip around here on the video and see right where are we at. Here we go. Should be right about. Let's see if we can find it. I'm doing this in real time. Here. But when they do an underside shot of the vehicle, and I should have these time markers down. I should definitely do that. One would be prepared if they did that, but, well, we know how I do things on this show. So there we go. Here we go. Right there. Right there. Look at this. If you're listening on audio, this is an underside shot of the vehicle. The camera is underneath the back where the spare tire would be, facing forward, looking at the rear axle. Note that I said rear axle. That is a solid axle right there in this truck. That is a solid axle, I will say. And that's not independent rear suspension. Now, what I find interesting about this, you probably didn't notice it on the first time through the video. You probably didn't notice it. But it's that you can see clearly in the edit right here where they have, I'll use my mouse here to point at it. You can see where they've like blotched it out. They've like this here. This is done in the edit. This is done in the edit to cover up the suspension components because they must be some special top secret thing, or they just don't want people to know about it. But I bet you didn't notice that on the first watch through. That's clearly been censored out with some dark color black blotches here and there. But what we can make out is that this is a this is a solid axle vehicle. Now, it appears to be a solid axle vehicle. I would go out on a limb and say it's tough to see. Let's see if we can get another angle on it. I can't quite tell if it's actually leaf sprung in the back, but if it is, that really, I think, solidifies that this is probably a actual body on frame vehicle. Here we go. Here's another shot. It's driving over. And can we get that? Can we slow that down a bit? Let's see if we can get it. I know there's a way to go frame by frame on YouTube, and I don't quite remember what it is. Yeah, to me, that doesn't look like... Oh, wait. Yeah, right there and right there. That, you can... I would probably have to increase the saturation on this for you to see it. But on my screen, I can see there is... If we're looking again, if you're listening on audio, we're looking underneath the truck. Now, the truck is driving over the camera, and... this sort of looks like a Toyota-style differential with the drain plug here off to the side at that angle. This looks really, really Toyota-esque, by the way. Again, with the solid housing, the diff probably comes out the front of it rather than having a diff cover on the back, more like a Dana-style axle or like a Ford-style axle. This diff looks like it comes out the front of it towards the front of the vehicle. And that's a solid, robust design. Nothing wrong with that. My Tacoma's that way. The A86 is that way. The A86 just basically has a little truck axle underneath it for all intents and purposes, with an LSD and some other stuff. But these here look like spring shackles. They do. It's really tough to tell. Again, you can see that they doctored the footage up and deliberately censored some areas here. These look kind of like plates for the bottom, and those are the U-bolts for the leaf springs. So what this is telling me, and I'm just kind of picking this apart, again, aside from the masked dudes testing it in the desert, I don't see a machine gun on the back of the truck yet. I don't. I do understand that happens with trucks used in the desert, though they usually like Toyota trucks. They usually go for Toyota Hiluxes. They usually have to be white too. I'll say that much. But what this tells me, though, kind of giving you some analysis here, you can also see there's a separation looking at the side profile of this truck. There's a separation between the bed and the cab. If this was a unibody construction, those two would likely be tied together. There'd be no separation here. So to me, it looks like rather than competing with, Hyundai's pickup truck, rather than competing with the Ford Maverick, those are both unibody style construction trucks, obviously a much lighter duty truck. It looks to me like Kia is deliberately going for the Tacoma and the Colorado here, and even the Ford Ranger. And that is interesting. I've never been a big Kia guy. I've never been a Hyundai guy. Also, probably the reason they're not doing something like Hyundai, because Hyundai is within the same company and they'd be competing with themselves. I get that. But looking at this, the Kia wants a piece of this. Now, does this truck make a lot of sense internationally? I don't really know. Looking at the features here, again, it's a body, looks to me like a body on frame design. Now, the front suspension is clearly independent. But again, that's same thing with your Tacomas. Really Jeeps and really, truly heavy-duty pickup trucks are going to be the only things these days with solid front axles. But to me, it looks like this could be a robust competitor. Now, I don't, just looking at the design of it, this doesn't look like a very aesthetically pleasing truck. Not just because it's got this cool psychedelic looking wrap on it. Are those pineapples? What is that? I don't know what that is. I have no idea what that is. Those look kind of like pineapples there. I know the pineapples can have multiple meanings, but anyway, so having said that, it doesn't look very pretty, but they're going for that tough look. It is very boxy. It's got these big plastic fender arches, these sections above the fender here. I'm not quite sure what's going on with those, nor do I like those, nor do I think black plastic like that ages all that well. Bear in mind, I'm coming from, over a mile above sea level, and the sun's very intense here, and it does things to matte black plastic like that you really don't want. It does things to that you don't want it to do. So I'm not a fan of that when I come across it on vehicles. My Jeep has a similar plastic on it. I've had a Wrangler JK before, and that was notorious for that black plastic just kind of turning white and oxidizing. I don't know if it's technically metal oxidizes. Either way, the plastic deteriorates in the UV, and that on those big black JK generation fender flares, or fenders in this case, just the outright fenders, it didn't do well in the Colorado sun here. So I don't like that out the gate. But we don't know anything right now about the drivetrain, but I do see it's got a radiator in there. This doesn't look like it's going to be an EV. It's got kind of a funky looking front end. It kind of looks like that mask that Bane in the Batman movies wears. It looks like that. It looks exactly like that, actually. I think that's what we're going to go with. I think this was inspired by that. And but overall here, having more than a few pickup truck options, that's not a Tacoma, that's not a Colorado, and that's not a Ford Ranger, is not necessarily a bad thing. And I'm curious to see how the Koreans compete with American mid-sized trucks. The Japanese prove that they've done it successfully for a long time. If anything, it's almost weird to me that the Koreans, which have come a long way automotively from the early days of Hyundai, they've come a long way. They absolutely have. And with that in mind, I remember Kias of yesteryear, and they weren't really that great. Hyundais weren't really that great. My mother in the early 2000s had it was a 2003 Santa Fe, and the transmission on that had to be replaced under warranty, I think twice. And it just wasn't all that nice of a car. I mean, it was adequate. It was fine. And for the money, it was definitely fine. But it was no Toyota. It was no Honda. Now, that can mean different things now in 2024, albeit. It seems like the Koreans have really wanted to step that game up. My gut tells me not to trust Korean cars. I've never been a Korean car guy, but what Hyundai's been doing in the past few years has been excellent, honestly. It really has. I dare say I'm kind of stuck in my ways. I'm somewhat prejudiced against Kias, much in the way I think people before my time, at least, guys older than me, who, maybe remember when Japanese cars came to the United States and Japanese small trucks, and they didn't trust them. Oh, it's cheap Japanese stuff. Now we put that at the pinnacle of quality. We put that above American-made stuff these days. Now, granted, up until recently, Toyotas and Tundras for a long time were made, for the U.S. market only. The Hilux was a completely separate truck sold internationally, and the Tacoma and the Tundra for a long time were made in Texas. So they were actually more American than Ford and Chevy at that point. But now Toyota's also brought their production into Mexico, just like all the other American manufacturers. I guess we might have to clarify North American manufacturers because, you can't say United States. It's made in Mexico, but Mexico's part of America still, I guess. So I don't know. But I think it's interesting where the Koreans have taken this. I think we've seen huge jumps in quality, especially in their higher level vehicles. Now, are your Hyundais, your basic Hyundais, are they the greatest thing? No, I still don't think they're quite Honda or Toyota level, even though Honda and Toyota have kind of diminished nowadays compared to how they used to be. They've gotten more technologically complex. They've moved manufacturing to all sorts of different places. But I think that we've seen leaps and bounds in the Korean car world. And we have absolutely seen that. And it's one of those things that makes me at least want to take a second look at them. I can't say I'm necessarily going to turn in my JDM car fan card and go buy a Kia right now or a Hyundai. But that is probably just a personal stigma at this point. It's no longer based on performance or drivability. There's guys, the Hyundai Velosters. Dudes love those things. Absolutely. And props to Hyundai for making a fun sports hatchback manual transmission. I mean, props to them for that. That's more than a lot of manufacturers are doing right now. And they've also had some really interesting concept cars. The Hyundai has had their electric cars, their EVs, on the Pikes Peak hill climb. I saw those this year. And now, granted, when they brought them out to the Pikes Peak hill climb, they had so many resources, a giant generator trailer and a huge crew and all of that stuff when I was up there. But, they're making a concerted effort to be relevant, to be thought of when it comes to performance cars. And they are making better quality cars now. So, with a Kia pickup truck, this to me, there's no promise that this Tasman is going to make it into the U.S. market. There's no promise. They're not saying that yet. They would be absolute fools to not bring this into the U.S. market, especially when you look at how relevant midsize trucks are here. They would be absolutely out of their mind to leave this out and just have it be international, like the proper Toyota Hilux. And that's not that big of a deal because Toyota makes the Tacoma for the North American market. So anyway, I think that's interesting. Now, what you can do is looking at this Kia. Well, let's switch back over there. You can see it again. It's weird. Those are camels on the screen now. That's not what I want. With that weird wrap there. But go ahead and give me your input. For one, what do you think of a Korean truck? Would you buy a Korean truck? Again, I don't think I would, but at this point, it's just for personal reasons. If you ask me to say, all right, well, what does that do better? Or what does that do that you don't like versus your sort of Japanese truck, your Toyota USA truck? Now, mine was at least one of the ones made in Texas still. It's an older Tacoma. It's a second gen. On paper, I probably couldn't tell you at this point. At this point, it's just purely an emotional decision. And I recognize myself for at least being flawed in that sense, not looking at this 100% objectively if it was actually my money. But if you did look at this objectively, how would you feel about a Korean truck? And let me know in the comments here on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, Rumble. Let me know on the podcast as well. Facebook.com/Automotive ADHD. You can comment on it there as I'm, again, rolling footage of this vehicle here. And there's a good chance, I will say, thinking out loud, that this will probably have some sort of turbocharged 4-cylinder. I don't see it having a 6, just considering where we are with trucks right now. Everything's turbo 4s, or at least midsize trucks, I should say. Midsize trucks are, turbo 4s. Your regular 1500s and things are turbo 6s, and you can still get some V8s in the heavy duty. Well, yeah, sure, Ford, you can still get some V8s, and Chevy, you can with different options. I'm not saying you can't, but generally, at least in this class, these smaller trucks, not the compact trucks, but these smaller ones, it's all turbo 4s now. Gone are Toyota's 2GR, 1GR V6s. I guess except with the exception of Nissan with the Frontier. I left Nissan out of this entire discussion. I said, yeah, the only mid-sized trucks, Tacoma, Colorado, and Ranger. I left Nissan out completely. Well, that's what they get for being Nissan, quite frankly. That's not on me. That's what they get. Perhaps it's because it was like blocked out of my memory subconsciously, because I've had some horrible experiences helping a friend do some work on a VQ40 and an Xterra, which same thing in a Frontier. Perhaps. I blame Carlos Ghosn, former Nissan CEO. I blame him for everything that's wrong in this world. But anyway, Frontier you still can get with that V6. And yeah, it's some flavor of VQ. What can I say? If you do want that old-fashioned one, though, yeah, you got to deal with it being a VQ. It is a Nissan, but it's perhaps the only traditional mid-sized truck on the market now. So I will give Nissan a point for that. I will do that. They do get 1 point. But they are also immediately deducted a point just out of pure prejudice and the nature of them being Nissan. So I deduct a point. So they're now at 0 points still, which is... It's better than being negative. They were negative points earlier. So anyway, hey, let me know your thoughts. Facebook.com/Automotive ADHD. Again, this is your first time catching the show. Hey, man, you are missing out. I do a radio show every week that is also broadcast on video on YouTube. It's on Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, all the places where you download fine shows and mine. This is as an audio show, so check that out. I also play people's car sounds on the radio show. So if you have car sounds, recordings of your car, or I've left it pretty broad. I mean, you can even imitate some car sounds yourself. I'll play them on the radio, and you can send those in, and then have a chance to win some free stuff while you're at it. Facebook.com/Automotive ADHD. I'll talk to you next week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll see you later.